Hey YouTube, this is Steve from Average Joe's Fantasy Football, and week 2 of the NFL season has come to an end, which means we are now jumping into week 3. With that said, I want to make sure you guys are prepared and ready for this upcoming week because we've got some great games coming up, and of course, a lot of injuries have happened over the last couple days that we've had to deal with. So hopefully you guys have gotten your waivers grabbed. If you haven't already, check out my video if you need some help there. Of course, hit me up in the comments down below. And we're going to jump right into the quarterback start and sit video for week 3. Now, again, week 3, you've got some great matchups. And reminder, there are 2 Monday night games this weekend, so make sure you guys are prepared for that. So, again, 2 Monday night games you've got to be prepared for. Now, as far as injuries go, Tua has obviously been officially put on IR, so you've got that. There's some banged-up quarterbacks as well that you've got to deal with, but most of them are going to start. But, again, matchup-wise, most of these guys are going to be playing. Couple concerns obviously with other injuries, and we'll talk about that with the other positions when we drop those videos. Now, these are your obvious starts at the quarterback position. These guys should be in your lineup every single week at this point. One surprise there is Derek Carr. I have officially put him on the start every week until I see the matchup is really, really bad. So I like Derek Carr as well as an obvious start. Now I'm going to jump into the first quarterback I'm going to mention, which is your quarterback one of fantasy so far, which is Baker Mayfield versus the Broncos. Look, he is number 1 in fantasy. He's been playing lights out so far this season. He's got a great matchup against Denver. Denver actually did a really good job against Justin Fields, but again, that's Justin Fields. That offensive line isn't playing great. He's still adjusting to this offense. No amazing receivers outside of Pickens as of right now with Roman Wilson out. So I don't give full credit to Denver. With that said, the Bucs offense has been on absolute tear right now, but Baker is almost at a point where he is just an obvious start every single week. And if he continues that success this week, he will be in my obvious list every single week. And the confidence is there. Like Baker Mayfield has great confidence in his wide receivers. The offensive line's playing well. And again, having a wide receiver like Godwin back into the slot makes a night and day difference. The trust of throwing the ball up to Mike Evans for a big play. Like Baker is just absolutely where he needed to be. Like, this is the perfect scenario for him. So I'm super excited for him. I think he's a great start this week. Another quarterback I like this week is going to be Geno Smith versus the Dolphins. The matchup looks bad on paper because the Dolphins have actually really done a good job against quarterbacks, holding them to only 10 points a game in fantasy. They even held Josh Allen to 9.8. Now, some of that was skewed. You have to understand, the Bills were up big. There was no need for Josh Allen to do more than what they did. There's no reason for the Superman of Josh Allen to show up. So that's a little skew. With that said, I actually like this matchup for Geno Smith. He's been on a streak lately. He's averaging 17 points a game right now, which is doing phenomenal. The Seattle offense looks a lot better than where they've been. You know, last year was kind of a scare. Like, no one knew what to do with Geno because the year before he was amazing. And it's kind of going back to that. And I think that's improving. And I love the fact that JSN, has kind of gone into week 2 where he had 14 targets. If he can continue that type of success and show why he was such a prominent and elite talent coming out of college, man, it's going to be amazing for the Seattle offense, because I do believe Geno Smith has the confidence and the ability to make it happen. And maybe that trade for Sam Howell, Sam Howell coming into Seattle, I think maybe that kind of pushed a button, because there were a lot of people talking about putting him in, replacing Geno Smith, and clearly he's listening. He's making sure he's playing well. So I really like him this week. Another quarterback I really like this week is going to be Joe Burrow versus the Commanders. This is the matchup Burrow and the Bengals passing tag absolutely needs. Still no word about T. Higgins and his injury and if he'll be back this week. So that's something you want to keep an eye on, and I'd love to see him play. But whether he plays or not, the Commanders are near the bottom against the pass and have allowed an average of 23 points a game to quarterbacks. They have even allowed Daniel Jones in week 2 to put up 18 points. If Joe Burrow puts up 18 points, you're happy with it. Burrow has struggled so far. He's only averaging 12 points a game. I think some of it is obviously, again, Jamar Chase missing time. Higgins isn't there. Those are some factors, but I do think this is the game where I think they build their confidence back. They really kind of get their swagger back that the Bengals are missing, because they're down 0-2 right now so far this season. And I think this is a nice, again, game to turn it all around. And the last quarterback I want to mention as a good start this week is going to be Gardner Minshew versus the Panthers. Coming into week 3, I thought this would be a slam dunk for Minshew, but the Panthers surprisingly held Justin Herbert to only 12 points. With that said, though, I still believe in Minshew this week against them. I think he should still have some success. I'm not think he's going to be amazing. I think he's going to get you that 15 to 16 points. I do think he does have to correct some of his turnovers. He's thrown an interception each of the last 2 games. And I do think the Panthers defense is not great. Surprisingly, like I said, they held Justin Herbert to only 12 points. I do think that Chargers offense is a whole nother issue. I don't think they're obviously leaning towards the pass, especially when you've got J.K. Dobbins playing out of his mind right now. But I still think Gardner Minshew is a nice little play. Now, as far as quarterbacks I'm sitting this week, the first one's going to be Matthew Stafford versus the 49ers. The 49ers gave up a stinker to Sam Darnold in week 2. But I do believe the defense will be back on track. I don't think they're going to obviously repeat that type of performance. The 49ers know the Rams really well, and obviously vice versa. And with all the injuries that have occurred at the wide receiver position for the Rams, it is not helping him at all. Stafford's going to be throwing to players that the casual fan doesn't know who they are. You know, you've got Demarcus Robinson, you got Tutu Atwell, you know, Whittington. Like, you've got some okay players, but these are not premier wide receivers. And Matthew Stafford's going against a tough 49ers defense. I really think this is going to be a tough one for him. I would not start him this week. And right now, if you haven't checked, currently quarterback 26 is Stafford in fantasy. So he has not played well so far this season. The injuries at wide receiver does not help. But again, maybe deep leagues. Other than that, I'm putting him on my bench. Another quarterback I'm going to sit this week is going to be Caleb Williams versus the Colts. Speaking of not playing well, Caleb Williams has struggled, and he's currently right now quarterback 31 in fantasy football. This season in fantasy, he has just not done anything, and just regular season, he has not done anything. And this is a somewhat tough matchup against Indianapolis. Now, the Indianapolis did lose Buckner this week, which is going to be tough. It's a big hit because he's obviously a dominant player on the defensive line. And the offensive line has just absolutely struggled so far for the Bears. They're just not allowing any time for Caleb Williams to even read or make throws. And you can tell his footing isn't right. He's not able to set his base. He's not able to really get the ball into, in the air, or maybe it's overthrown or underthrown. There's just a lot of struggle there. And I think the confidence is slowly fading in him. As crazy as it sounds, kind of like the Bryce Young situation. Like Bryce Young, I didn't think he deserved the number 1 spot. I thought that should have been CJ Stroud, but Bryce Young has talent. He's just in a spot that his confidence is shot. His confidence is absolutely shot. So this is a really tough matchup, and I could see the frustration in the wide receivers too for the Chicago Bears. So I had high hopes going into the season. Maybe I'm a little naive. I still think there's a possibility they still turn this around, but I'm sitting Caleb Williams this week. Another quarterback I'm sitting this week is going to be Justin Herbert versus the Steelers. I talked about him before. He's not playing very well. This Chargers offense is really focused on the run, especially with Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Plus, on top of that, the Steelers are actually one of the best pass defenses right now, and they're playing against a Chargers team that really has struggled in the air. Herbert had a good matchup last week, again, like I mentioned, against Carolina, and he still only measly put up 12 points. That's not good enough. I don't know what it is. I mean, you had a player like Quentin Johnston who's phenomenal in fantasy for the first time ever since he's played in the NFL, and yet still Justin Herbert's struggling. So I do have some hesitation, I think, at right now. I mean, he's not someone I'm rostering in redraft, and unless it's a super flex league. And at this point, I don't feel confident starting him really any week, but this week I definitely don't. And the last quarterback I'm not going to start this week is going to be Trevor Lawrence versus the Bills. Look, the Bills defense has really surprised me so far. I thought they were going to have some regression and some struggle, but especially with the losses they had over the offseason and the injuries they've had on the defensive side, but they're playing really, really well. They now play at home Monday night against the Jaguars team that really hasn't played well at all. Lawrence has thrown 1 touchdown so far this season. He's only averaging 12 points a game. The offense does not look like it has in the past. Travis Etienne struggling, getting past 2 or 3 yards on the ground. Like, this whole offense is struggling. And Doug Peterson has usually done a really good job of, keeping his quarterbacks upright, keeping his quarterbacks reads, smart quarterback play. Trevor Lawrence just looks like he's going backwards. And he just signed that big contract, which I'm sure a lot of Jaguar fans are going to now question. But right now, Trevor Lawrence is going to be on my bench. Now, as far as my quarterback sleepers this week, I've got Jaden Daniels versus the Bengals, and I got Deshaun Watson versus the Giants. Crazy as that sounds, I think Deshaun has a great matchup against the Giants. The Giants have not played very well. And I think, again, Jaden Daniels, his rushing ability is always going to play a factor. I know he didn't put that up last week. I think that was put into kind of the game plan. They're really trying to help him focus on, trying to pass the ball down the field. But Jaden Daniels' talent is his legs as well. So hopefully they let him kind of just run and try to have some winning success. And I think he's a nice little sleeper. So those are my start sits and sleepers for week 3 for the quarterback position. Again, if you have comments for your lineup, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to help you guys out. Make sure you guys are following me on X as well. And of course, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll check you guys out next time.